It's Nolan.
Now, before we get started, make sure y'all hitting that like button. Make sure y'all sharing it on your respective platforms. Let somebody know what we're doing today. Now, let's get into the show.
Southern boy about to make a killing. Vacate the building like a heist. I'm about to make a million. Create my village till I'm straight to educate these children. Fade to the ceiling, they hate, but I never take their dealings. I've been thumbing through the guap. Gets me in and out the city. I be stomping through the block. Growing up ain't had no money, just $1 in my sock. And now they passing me the catalog, the cash out on the drop. I got 'em mad now, focused on my bag now. Family get the brag now. I never took the fast route. Homie, I was struggling, I was suffering. They thought I was good for nothing. My brain is a metaphor. How I weather storms when it's under them. Atom, rare form, my focus done leveled up. Every time you hear my voice, got them jumping like double dutch. You can tell that my hustle's up, I'm connecting like uppercuts. Without this sauce on me, probably would think I was stuffing crust. Do my own thing, see me grinding in my gold frame, shining like a gold chain, popping for the whole tank, and the flow in here like propane. What's up? And it's never gon' change. I've been doing my own thing. See me grinding in my gold frames, shining like a gold chain, popping for the whole tank, and the flow in here like propane. Let's go. And it's never gon' change. I've been doing my own thing.
What's going on, beautiful people? It's the kid J Nolan here. Welcome back to another episode of Inside the Industry, your number one source for music, entertainment, commentary, and breakdowns. Hope everybody's doing well out there. Now, in this video, we're going to be getting into Drake versus UMG. All right. Yesterday, they had their first court hearing. This court hearing was in reference to UMG's motion to dismiss. They basically were having an oral argument where they could both sides present their cases, present their reasonings as to why this should be dismissed from UMG's perspective and why it shouldn't be from Drake and his legal team's perspective, right? This was brought before, Judge Jeanette Vargas, I believe. And I've pretty much maintained my stance that the judge is not going to dismiss this lawsuit. It's very possible that elements of the lawsuit could be dismissed while others will remain intact. But as of this moment, we don't know what will or will not remain. It's going to be the judge who's going to have to look at precedent and see the merit on each side's claims. And ultimately, if this case is to proceed, it will be brought before a jury who will have to ultimately determine what all of this is going to be. All right. Big shout out to Inner City Press, who actually made his way into the court hearing so that he could hear the oral argument. I do believe he was a little bit late, so he didn't get the entirety of the conversation, but he did post on Twitter an update with what he was able to obtain from the oral argument. We're going to go through those anecdotes and those posts that he was able to share with us via social media on Twitter, and kind of get a little bit of a temperature check on how the judge is approaching this, how the judge is receiving the arguments from both sides, just to see how this thing could proceed moving forward. Now, as it pertains to Inner City Press showing up a little late, he has been doing a lot of coverage of the Diddy trial. He's also been keeping up with some federal government stuff. Like this is what he does. This is his full-time gig. He is a journalist that covers big time cases going on. You know what I'm saying? So, he had to work with the time that he had on his schedule. Okay, so he says, okay, now in Drake versus UMG, Kendrick Lamar case, oral argument. Inner City Press has covered the case from the start and will live tweet thread below. All right. So when he gets inside, the judge is saying, you seem to say a diss track could never be defamatory, but New York law says the form is not dispositive. Okay. And the judge is talking to UMG's lawyer, because UMG's lawyer, of course, is trying to propose that this was strictly a rap battle. The hyperbole, the exaggeration, the point of the whole thing is to diss each other, disrespect, discredit, and create foul narratives about your opponent, right? So the judge is saying, you seem to make it, you seem to believe that no diss track could be ever defamatory. However, the judge says New York law does not say the form is dispositive, basically saying that's not a catch-all. Okay. UMG's lawyer comes in and says, look at the shock jock cases. Okay. And of course, the primary shock jock case that they use is Rappaport versus Barstool Sports, in which they disparaged him every which way, and it was basically not too much he could do about it. Judge says not the same thing. Perhaps the court needs more info and cannot dismiss. Okay. So as I stated all along, I do believe that the judge is going to want to know more. All right. UMG lawyer says Drake opened the door in the third person, that when Kendrick Lamar says, heard you like I'm young, there is no surprise. And basically they're alluding to, of course, the tailor-made freestyle where he says, talk about me like in young girls. That's a gift from me. Right? With the Tupac voice. Vargas says, Mr. Lamar suggests that there are other secrets he has yet to reveal. It's ambiguous. All right. And that's one of the main things in Drake's lawsuit coming from his legal team, is that when he says things like, I heard you like I'm young, or the rabbit hole can go deeper, or things of that nature, that he's basically alluding to there being more information than what he's presenting to us on the surface. That would basically suggest he knows more about Drake being a PDF. Right? UMG's lawyers are trying to get that narrative tossed. So UMG lawyer says, these are questions of law. The court can dismiss. Judge says, what are certified PDFs? UMG lawyer says, it's a play on certified lover boy. Judge says, but would the ordinary listener know the name of Drake's album, Certified Lover Boy? UMG lawyer says the context is all the rumors about Drake and young females. All right. So the judge is coming in with a clean slate, not really understanding Drake's discography, not really understanding, or at least acting as if they don't understand Drake's discography, the background of the ongoing feud between Drake and Kendrick Lamar, or any of the things that we all understand and know about. The judge is saying, would the ordinary listener understand these things, right? Because Drake is trying to say, hey, we know that there is a dedicated fan base of people who were tuned into this battle. They know all the details of this thing. But when these songs make it mainstream and they go out to an audience that's not aware of the inner workings of this feud, how are they perceiving these lyrics? That's Drake's argument, right? So UMG says the context is all the rumors about Drake and young females, basically saying all of these different rumors that have been out there predate any and everything that Kendrick Lamar said in any of his diss records. Therefore, you cannot put that solely on Kendrick as if he created a narrative that didn't already exist. UMG lawyer says we seek dismissal for Drake having used the information and belief form of pleading. Okay, now with the information and belief form of pleading, this is where they get into Drake believing that UMG has used botting or paid content creators to favor Kendrick Lamar and make Drake look bad, or that UMG was basically striking sweetheart deals with outside platforms to make Not Like Us a bigger song than it was supposed to be. Right? Judge says, Mr. Gottlieb for Drake. Gottlieb comes in and says, on a Rule 12 motion, the question is whether a listener could have thought facts were being conveyed, right? Also, information and belief basically saying that we believe that these types of things could happen. They're saying the listener could have thought that these facts were being conveyed by Kendrick Not so much that they would or that it's definitive, but they're saying there's a possibility that they could, which I think is kind of a weak argument, but whatever. Gottlieb says they want Your Honor to weigh 17 articles, but the time to weigh evidence is not at this stage. And I believe the 17 articles are in UMG's exhibits, where they try to show all of these different instances of Drake having questionable either behavior or people just questioning the nature of his relationship with certain underage girls that he's befriended. Judge says, I can take judicial notice. The lyrics are what they are. They say UMG made this song more culturally ubiquitous than any other. 9 billion streams played at a bar mitzvah. Judge says, an interesting bar mitzvah that would play this song. Judge says, then there's the use of the AI voice of Tupac. Drake's lawyer says, I'm not convinced of the relevance. Judge says, shouldn't I view the entire rap battle? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Shouldn't I look at the entire scope of everything? Gottlieb says, this was unique. Judge, Kendrick Lamar didn't know he'd perform at the Super Bowl. Okay? So now, when you get in Drake's lawsuit and they're talking about how UMG leveraged their relationships to make sure he got the Super Bowl and was able to perform this song at the Super Bowl and all these things, the judge is saying, hey, when he created this song, he was not aware that he would receive the opportunity to headline at the Super Bowl. Drake's lawyer says UMG republished the material with knowledge when it launched the Super Bowl campaign. There were 3 attacks on his home. Right? So here they are still trying to latch on the attacks at Drake's home and try to tie them in with Not Like Us, basically stating they believe if this song were not published or allowed to be published in the format in which it was, then maybe Drake's home wouldn't be attacked, completely overlooking the fact that there was a separate beef going on which led to those attacks. They say the cover art is Drake's home with SO location tags. Judge says, didn't Drake say Kendrick Lamar is not the biological father of his child? Gottlieb says the court doesn't have enough info on that. Okay, so basically the judge is now saying, well, didn't Drake also defame Kendrick Lamar? Didn't he say something about his family? Now Gottlieb says the court doesn't have enough info on that. How is it that the court doesn't have enough info on it, but we do as regular common folk? Come on now. Gottlieb says 10% of streams are false. A popular podcaster alleged the use of bots. There's also a stream farmer. There was whitelisting, misdirected search results, and payola. So this is Drake's team. They're pushing for this whole bot. They're pushing for this, New York general business law, basically saying that they're violating general business law by paying off radio, paying off all these different platforms. They're saying a popular podcaster alleged the use of bots. They're alluding to Joe Budden, who has already said he doesn't know that to be true. He was just spewing shit on his podcast. What intimate information would Joe Budden have about whether or not Kendrick or Drake were botting other than assumptions? They say there's also a stream farmer. That stream farmer was the person that had that conversation with academics, who also came out and said, hey, bruh, I was lying. And I'm not even sitting here thinking, because I don't call that nigga that. I call him the motherfucking DJ that don't spin. And if anybody has seen Homeboy cover any of the conversation around this, he don't even allude to the so-called stream farmer no more. That nigga created a narrative, discarded the narrative, and ain't looked back at it. But they still holding on to it as their golden goose. They say there was whitelisting, right? Which is when they allowed the reactors to react to the music on YouTube without being copyright flagged. They say misdirected search results. Of course, that's going to be the Apple Music or the Shazam Apple Music thing where you say, hey, play Certified Lover Boy, and it plays Not Like Us, right? Although that's simply lyric recognition. Has nothing to do with misdirected search results. But they're also going to say, hey, when you type in Drake, Not Like Us comes up on Spotify, as if you don't see a variety of different related search results when you type an artist or song title in on streaming platforms. And they have, as of yet, nothing to solidify payola. But that's their argument. Judge says, what is the damage in bot streaming? Gottlieb says every other artist on the platform is injured. Okay. UMG lawyer says in the record are articles mentioning his going to girls basketball relationship at 31 with a 13-year-old Millie Bobby Brown and lyrics. Now, again, this is jumping all over the place. And it doesn't seem to be all that chronological. It's probably just what he's able to catch in real time. He does a much better job on Diddy, I must say, than he did with this, because this is like a thread of 12 tweets within, how long was this? I don't even see the time. But he was there for over an hour. Not the greatest, but I don't think there was anyone else that really documented this stuff all the way through. But as you can see in that last tweet there, UMG lawyer is honing in on the fact of Drake mentioning going to the girls' basketball games. You know, the texting relationship between himself and Millie Bobby Brown about boys and, you know, whatever else they were talking about. Talking about I miss you so much. And then certain lyrics in his songs that have been questioned. Right? So they're saying, again, Kendrick Lamar is not the originator of any of the things that were said on Not Like Us. He was just reiterating things that were already talked about, that were already prevalent, that were already documented all over the internet. Unfortunately, the only other account that I see that's reported on this situation as we went through the inner city press is the OVO docket. Now, the OVO docket is a Drake Stan page. Okay. So they were also there. They also did their follow-ups. So take some of the angling with a grain of salt, but we have Inner City Press, who's pretty much neutral, just there to do his job. He's a journalist with his own shit going on. And then you have the OVO docket, whoever the fuck this person is. And this is how they documented it, all right? Now, again, it says OVO docket on it. This person don't like me. They got me blocked on Twitter, but the way that Twitter is set up nowadays, even if a person blocks you, you can still see what they post. So, fuck you. I can still see it, homie. Anyway. So, they report Judge Jeanette Vargas did not decide on UMG Recordings' motion to dismiss today. Judge Vargas stated she will render her opinion at a later date. No specific date was given. Judge Vargas challenged both sides by asking questions about issues she felt were outstanding. Okay? Judge Vargas opened oral argument by informing both parties she had reviewed all briefings and was privy to all the facts. She focused oral arguments on two things. Legal determination is Not Like Us fact or opinion. To what extent should she consider the exhibits UMG submitted along with the motion to dismiss? Okay. The UMG lawyer that Inner City Press was talking about is attorney Roland Ransom. And they argued for UMG. Says he argued that Not Like Us is non-actionable opinion, and it is up to Judge Vargas to determine whether it is defamation, and that defamation should not be determined by a jury. So Roland Ransom for UMG says, Judge, you can decide that this should be, you can decide the judgment here. You don't have to wait. You don't have to send it to a trial for the jury. You can say what needs to be said. Judge Vargas, however, stopped Ransom and challenged him by stating defamation is to be determined at trial. She stated there is case law, Davis versus Boheme that draws the court to find that the motion to dismiss should not be granted based on the audience being susceptible to understanding Not Like Us as defamation. Judge Vargas stated that one of the main things she wants Ransom to address is two specific case laws that clash, Davis versus Boheme and Brian v. Richardson. Ransom then argued that Drake's opposition misstates certain case law by suggesting defamation is based on how a listener could be susceptible to thinking Not Like Us is defamatory. Judge Vargas agreed with that notion, but redirected Ransom back to Davis. She stated that the court is required to view things in the light most favorable to Drake, and the Davis case law does not support dismissal. Okay? Take that with however you will, as far as it has to be most favorable to Drake. Although, in many cases, you are kind of assuming that the complaint is factual on its face and it has to be disproven. Ransom asked the court to consider the context of Not Like Us being a part of a rap battle. He states that the focal argument of the Davis case is whether there are implied facts or undisclosed facts. Ransom argued Not Like Us has zero implication of undisclosed facts. Judge Vargas interrupted and stated there are lyrics in Not Like Us that suggest Lamar is privy to undisclosed facts. There's ambiguity there, but I must view it in the light most favorable to the plaintiff. So based on what OVO Docket is saying here and what Inner City Press said about the same conversation, they seem to be pretty much saying the same thing. Although in different language, it's conveying the same message, although they keep using favorable to the plaintiff. Ransom then moved to Steinhibler v. Alphonse, which discusses statements made in the middle of a heated dispute. Ransom argued the court should apply the Steinhibler defense to the rap battle. Judge Vargas stated, the logical conclusion of your argument is that all statements in rap battles should never be taken as fact, but there are instances where people do think rap lyrics are factual, okay? So the judge is saying there are circumstances in which a person can believe that rap lyrics are conveying truth. Ransom then stated the nature of the lyrics suggests Not Like Us was just top tier trash talking and rhetorical hyperbole, and that it's no different than shock jocks on the radio. Judge Vargas followed the context. Here is a rap diss battle, but who heard the song? Is it only rap music listeners? Is it radio listeners? How do I, sitting here as a judge, determine that statements in a rap battle are not true? Sometimes statements made in a rap battle are true. Do I need to have more facts, more discovery before I can make a decision as a matter of law? So again, different terms. They're putting quotations, so it seems that they're including actual quotes from the judge rather than general statements of what was heard, which is more so what Inner City Press does. But they kind of seem to be saying the same thing. Judge Vargas continues, the court needs more to consider whether statements are fact or opinion. The court can't decide as a matter of law without more context, which I said the whole time. I do believe that the judge is going to want to see more information before just considering this as a wash and tossing it out. Ransom states that the amicus brief and exhibits provide all the context needed to make a decision. Ransom then references Drake's lyrics in Tailor-Made Freestyle as the proof. Drake asked Kendrick Lamar to discuss his relationships with minors. Now, I do believe that the amici could be available for the trial to elaborate on the history of rap battles and contextualizing these things. But Ransom is saying, hey, we got the amicus brief. We got all these exhibits. We got everything here. If you just read through it, you could say this is garbage. Wouldn't that be nice? Ransom then stated that Drake's complaint relies heavily on online statements from the public sharing their subjective opinions on their interpretation of Not Like Us. Ransom argued that the court should not consider anything subjective for something that is supposed to be an objective test. Not to mention, they're just cherry picking certain comments, right, that are unfavorable to Drake. But there's so many people out there that just enjoyed this battle for what it was, which was entertainment and a war of words between two of the biggest artists in the music industry. People will pick their sides. People will have their own viewpoints. But is it more serious than that? I never saw it that way, but I'm not in the court. Judge Vargas then asked Ransom, Let me challenge you on one specific lyric. Certified Lover Boy, Certified P-Foul. It does give the reasonable listener the impression that in some unspecified way, Drake is a P-Foul. Who is the reasonable listener? Is it people who know the nuances of Kendrick Drake, as I stated before? So even though OVO Docket is a stand page, we already read through Inner City Press's documentation of this. It's pretty much there. Judge Vargas asked Ransom to clarify whether UMG's request for the court to consider these exhibits, along with their motion to dismiss, should be taken as truth or merely for the court to acknowledge that rumor and innuendo already existed regarding Drake. Ransom responded that he does not want the rumors to be taken as truth, but only for the court to acknowledge that the rumors already existed. Judge Vargas then instructs Ransom to argue the two other claims, harassment in the second degree and violation of New York general business law. For the New York general business law claim, Ransom argued that it should be dismissed because Drake did not sustain a direct injury. Ransom stated that Drake points to consumers being deceived rather than him directly suffering an injury. For the harassment claim, Ransom argued that it should be dismissed because there is no private right of action and this type of claim is a matter for state court rather than federal court. Ransom ended there. Next up was Michael J. Gottlieb for Drake. Gottlieb, or Gottlieb, however you say it, opened by stating that the court should review the complaint with the appropriate standard, and when reviewed under the appropriate standard, all of UMG's arguments are slashed. Gottlieb stated that the Davis case law was utterly devastating for UMG's defense. Gottlieb stated, "The question is not what a reasonable listener should conclude after hearing Not Like Us, but rather what they could have concluded. Under the Davis standard, listeners could have concluded Not Like Us to be defamatory, which millions clearly did. On a motion to dismiss, the court must consider whether the statements are susceptible to interpretation." Gottlieb continued by saying UMG's motion to dismiss wants the court to disregard the pleadings in Drake's complaint and consider UMG's subjective narratives. Gottlieb stated that the court is required to make all reasonable inferences in the light most favorable to Drake. Gottlieb argued that UMG's 17 exhibits should be considered at trial or at later stages, not at the motion to dismiss stage, which I don't see that. If it was allowed to be submitted, then why shouldn't it be taken into consideration? Judge Vargas responded to Gottlieb, "There are other songs referenced in the complaint besides Tailor-Made Freestyle. At the core of it, I have to consider the lyrics. The lyrics are the focal point of this case, which is the case that y'all created, which is the case that Drake decided to try and criminalize Kendrick Lamar's lyrics. So now let's get into the lyrics of the entire back and forth." Gottlieb responded by stating UMG's arguments stray away from the complaint and again states that the court must make reasonable inferences in favor of the plaintiff, not the defendant. Gottlieb stated that numerous allegations in the complaint explain the meaning of the lyrics, music video, and cover art. Millions who were exposed to the lyrics received it as a cultural ubiquity. UMG did not give the same treatment to the other songs in the rap battle. Okay, so Gottlieb is trying to stray the usage of the other songs and continues to want to hone in exclusively on Not Like Us, music video, song lyrics, cover art, and the fact that people could have taken those lyrics differently than what they were intended. Gottlieb continued, "The average listener could very well be a 13-year-old at a bar mitzvah who does not understand that it is part of a rap battle." Judge Vargas and the whole courtroom laughed. Judge Vargas responded, "I will hope it's not being played at a bar mitzvah." Gottlieb responded, "Oh, it definitely is. There were some bar mitzvahs out there, but they were just having a good time." Judge Vargas, "When it comes to Tailor-Made Freestyle, Drake in third person stated, 'Talk about him liking young girls, that's a gift from me.' How would I draw the inference that the lyrics mean anything besides Drake goading Kendrick Lamar?" Excellent question, right? So Judge Vargas says Drake himself clearly in third person says Go ahead and talk about this. So how could I draw the inference that the lyrics mean anything else besides him goading Kendrick? Gottlieb responded, because Not Like Us was treated differently. It was not treated like tailor-made freestyle. So they keep answering the question by not answering the question. Basically saying, hey, we're not talking about tailor-made freestyle. We're talking about Not Like Us. And the judge is saying, okay, well, I'm asking you about this. Do you have an answer? As a matter of fact, Judge Vargas responded, I'm asking you, what other possible meaning could the court draw from those lyrics in tailor-made freestyle? You're asking the court to only consider Not Like Us because it was treated differently. But that would require the court to assume Kendrick Lamar knew the song would become a huge hit. If two people are arguing back and forth and one says something that goes too far, I can't disregard the entire context of the argument. That's what we've been saying the whole fucking time, Judge Vargas. Thank you. The people who like to use it, when we choose to use it, and this is a, y'all go try to say Judge Vargas is taking UMG's side. Ms. Vargas was paid off. Rock Nation did it. Gottlieb responded, that is a matter to be evaluated at a later stage, such as trial, not at the motion to dismiss stage. But all complaints and rebuttals would need to be considered and read through thoroughly of whether or not to dismiss. Now, I don't think it's going to get dismissed. And clearly, the fact that the judge wants to evaluate further context and all these different things, I don't see it being dismissed. Anyway, they said UMG republished the song and introduced it to new audiences. So they have no answer for tailor-made at all. UMG knew at various points in the republication that the allegations were false. UMG itself removed the song from the context of the rap battle. UMG's own exhibits show that even the press interpreted it as real criminal accusations. Not Like Us does not reference any of these previous rumors in the song. They allude to that information being out there. But that's their job. UMG's exhibits show that if those exhibits are accepted by the court, we're fine with that because it proves that the audience was susceptible to the connotation that Not Like Us is intended to convey the false factual allegation that Drake is a pedo. Judge Vargas then challenged Gottlieb by stating, Drake leveled allegations of his own. Are those fact or opinion? This is the basically same thing Inner City Press documented about, Drake talking about Kendrick's fiance having a child with his friend. Gottlieb responded, there is not enough information brought forth by anyone for the court to consider that. Oh, it's not enough information no more. There is no complaint related to the allegations Drake made, no cover art, no rumors that Drake specifically references in order for the court to determine that. The court is not tasked with evaluating Drake's allegations. It is tasked with focusing on the allegations in the complaint. No. Because the judge just said, am I not to look into the entire argument, not just one piece of it that you don't like? Gottlieb finished argument on the defamation claim with, I don't know if the court wants me to address the actual malice standard. Actual malice means whether or not UMG published the statements knowing the statements were false or with reckless disregard for their falsity. Judge Vargas responded, I don't need to hear about the actual malice standard. Gottlieb then moved to the violation of NYGBL. Gottlieb stated, UMG does not address various allegations related to the New York General Business Law claims, such as the whitelisting payola, users being directed to Not Like Us when searching for Drake songs, or when prompting Siri to play Drake songs on Apple Music and Spotify. There's direct injury to Drake as a consumer of music, Why do y'all keep talking about him as a consumer of music? And as an artist, because his streaming royalties were diluted when bots were used. His streaming royalties were also not diluted. Whatever streams he got, he was paid for. Judge Vargas, pardon my own ignorance on this, but how does manipulation of Siri on Apple Music, Spotify relate to the royalty payments and the bots? I'm sorry, that's my own lack of understanding, so forgive me. Gottlieb responded, they are two separate claims, the bots and the manipulation of Siri to play Not Like Us on Spotify, Apple Music. The bots are a matter of dilution. Use of bots dilutes the amount of royalties paid to artists. Judge Vargas says, so what you're saying is every single artist could have this same claim against UMG? Gottlieb said, yes. Okay. Gottlieb did not make oral arguments for the harassment claims. He ended by stating, with respect to the harassment claim, we will rest on our papers, meaning the court should rely on the arguments made in the complaint. Judge Vargas then called Roland Ransom for UMG to provide a brief rebuttal. Ransom stated, Drake's attorney says they are fine with the court considering our exhibits, referencing Gottlieb's earlier comment of we're fine with it. The court should accept our exhibits for that reason alone. Ransom then ended, because he did say that, with lyrics should not be considered statements of fact, but rather hyperbole. Drake's side leaves out the context in one of our exhibits they quote regarding how the audience interpreted Not Like Us. They leave out that Baka Not Nice was charged with S trafficking. Ooh. What about your friends? Are they gonna be around? Are they gonna stand ground? What about your friend? Judge Vargas did not comment following Ransom's rebuttal. Good judge said, oop. OVO docket says, overall, it was difficult to tell which way Judge Vargas was definitively leaning. She has a great poker face. She appeared to be more challenging both sides to display their best rather than looking to be swayed. An indication to us that her decision is already made. Why would you say that, Bendino? Judge, the judge is asking questions. That's what a judge does. An indication to us that her decision is already made. This is where your ass got called out. They say the oral argument felt more like a class being taught. We also want to note that there were about 40 to 50 summer associates from Sidley Austin LLP, the firm representing UMG, there to observe. It was definitely good to observe if you are a law student. Regardless, they still believe the case will move forward to trial, and honestly, I do too. OVO docket came back hours later, said we're being accused of halfway reporting on today's oral argument. No other outlet is reporting the arguments in depth except OVO docket. We challenge anyone questioning our coverage to purchase the court transcripts and do a side-by-side analysis with our posts. Bozos. OVO docket. Should have stayed logged off, homie. I don't think you did all that bad till you put your own opinion in there. You know, since we had something to compare it to. Matter of fact, I don't think your documentation of the situation made Drake look all that great. You actually documented where Drake was questioned. You actually documented where Drake's lawyer kind of got put into a pickle and couldn't respond very well, and didn't respond at all to certain questions by trying to answer strictly on the nature of Not Like Us. It actually made Drake's legal team look a little bit incompetent, or at bare minimum, disingenuous. So I don't know why you're so mad, but you know, the OVO in your name explains it all, huh? But let me know what y'all think of all this down below in the comments. Be sure to like and share this video. If this is your first time seeing me on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, become an insider. As y'all can see, I covered a neutral journalist, and then I went to the OVO docket, which is a Drake-leaning page, went through what they posted. I'm not here to tell y'all what to think or what to accept as fact or what should happen. All I can do is give y'all the information. I tell y'all all the time what my opinion is, but my opinion really means nothing in a court of law. All right? But I will catch y'all on the next one. Much love and respect. Peace.
King of my city and cul-de-sac. Coming out swinging like soldier rags. Leading my people like quarterback. Boy, I study this shit, I'm an almanac. Had to get up and grind. Knowledge is booming, I'm here to apply. Came with the chip and the dip, it just single the mind. We finna do more than survive. I need my check. Spinning the block for the Gouda. We hitting the jeweler to flood out the net. We don't do beef for computers, I'm straight out the sewer. We come when you rest. Niggas be looking perplexed, so keeping my foot on their neck. No map, I trust my gut for the quest. With drama, I'm fully abreast. I was ready for years and they doubted me. All of a sudden, they tell me they proud of me. I've been dropping these haters like calories. Cross them out, I came back with some boundaries. Stand for my honor, but too raw, no corner. Packing the stick with a drummer. When I catch my bad, won't fumble. I done came too far to be humble.